to Real Estate Talk with your host, Ken Sachs. This show is created for you, the consumer. Our goal is to empower you with information and education, thereby giving you the tools needed to make informed decisions when it comes to real estate. Real Estate Talk is brought to you by SpokaneHouseHunter.com. Now, here's your host, Ken Sachs.
Well, hi, folks. I am Ken Sachs, and you are joining us with Real Estate Talks. And I am here with Kent Adams.
With a T.
With a T.
A Ken with a T.
Kent Adams. And we're going to talk about what else but real estate.
Oh, what a novel idea.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And buyers and sellers.
And let's face it, we buy cars, we buy several cars, but we only really buy a few homes usually over our lifetime.
That's right.
And it's the biggest expenditure we ever make.
It really is.
Except maybe our daughter's wedding, right?
I'm not there yet, and
But
I'm
you
not
will
ready
be.
to talk about that.
Okay, all right.
But it is definitely one of the most expensive
It is.
ventures that we would, and one of the most stressfuls,
Yes.
too.
Yes.
So, there's so many dynamics and there's so many elements, and all of those change depending on where we are in the cycle of real estate.
Well, let's talk about that. My first question to you would be, where are we now?
Where are we?
Yeah,
Sure.
Because I keep seeing what the Spokane Association of Realtors puts out and so forth, and inventory is down, selling is up certain percentage, and it's like every month or so it changes a bit. So what is it today?
Sure. And when I talk about the market, Spokane is really made up of a lot of micro markets.
Yes.
So, what's happening downtown or South Hill is different than the North Side or
right,
Otis Orchards,
right,
etc.
right.
So, as far as the market, generally in Spokane, our inventory is still under 2 months. So
Okay.
what does that mean? when I
That's
say
dangerously
inventory?
low, isn't it?
That's very low.
Yes.
But sellers get excited with numbers like that.
Yeah.
Buyers don't get so excited.
Yeah. Sellers get excited until they have to buy the next house.
Many sellers then become buyers.
Yes.
So when I say inventory is low, Kent, what I mean is at our pace of sales,
Right.
if no additional units come on the market,
Yes.
it would take 2 months to sell everything out.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a key indicator we look at, because that tells us, are we in a seller's market,
Yes.
a neutral market, or are we in a buyer's market?
Clearly a seller's market right now.
Clearly a seller's market.
Do you see that changing in the near future, meaning this year?
I don't necessarily see it changing this year. So this
Okay.
is a total crystal ball
Right,
question.
right.
Now, our inventory may creep up a little, but I don't see the shift this year
Okay.
going to either neutral or buyer's market.
Okay.
So sellers, you still have, in my mind, some pretty good months to sell.
Okay.
Keeping in mind you're probably going to buy
Yes.
as
yes,
well.
I know.
But one of the things that's interesting, Kent, is something I've been observing is that sellers are getting this overconfidence
Oh, really?
because they read in the
We
news.
own the market.
We own the market. We can ask whatever we want,
Right.
and we will get it.
Yeah, but you have to have a bank and a financial institution that will loan at that level and
That's
everything else
exactly
that
right.
goes with it.
If the buyer is getting a loan,
Yes.
which a lot of buyers are getting loans,
Right.
there will be that appraisal.
And then comes reality.
Then comes reality. So I think where that starts is with your realtor, your
Okay.
real estate professional. I think it's key, it's imperative. Number one, how are you choosing your realtor?
Yes.
Is it, hey, it's a friend of mine,
It's Uncle Harry.
Uncle Harry,
Yeah.
who sells 2 properties a year? Or is it somebody who is, full-time, they have the experience, they have the wisdom to best guide you through
Right.
this process?
Right.
So it starts with how you select the realtor that you're going to work with.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, listen to him or her. Because people want to look good and be right.
Right.
They want to look good and be right.
Right.
Oh, no, I'll tell you how you buy a house. Or what we hear all the time, my father tells me. Okay, your father when was the last time they bought a house?
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
So align yourself with a trusted realtor and then listen to
That has
them.
experience and is in the current market.
Yes.
I mean, that really is what it comes down to, doesn't
yes.
it?
And then listen to them.
Yeah.
Because if you don't listen to them,
Yeah.
it's not going to do you any good.
Yeah. And you're paying for that.
You are.
You know,
and
for
so,
that expertise.
That's right. And so what's happening and what I've noticed over at least the last year, these sellers, let's say the house, let's just say 300,000. Okay, we're not in Seattle. We're in Spokane. So 300,000. And well, I think I can get 450,000, maybe because some third-party website, which I won't mention any names,
Yes.
is telling me my house is 450. That is music to my ears.
Or the lady down the street got 450.
Or the lady down the street, and that's what I want. But you have no idea
Yeah.
what's behind that. And you don't want to be led down this road where you have this false sense of security that now I go on the market and I'm overpriced.
Yeah.
Because what happens...
And maybe it's not time to sell because you're not going to get the dollars that you want.
It may not
It's
be.
better to know that probably up front than for everybody to spend the time trying to market it and then be disappointed.
That's right. And,
Yeah.
something I ask my sellers a lot is, okay, scale of 1 to 10, Kent, how important is honesty to you?
Yeah.
1 to 10.
11.
It's an 11.
Yeah.
Kent, I appreciate that and I respect that. So, Kent, would you not then agree that if honesty is the most important thing to you, like past a 10,
Right.
then there are going to be times I'm going to tell you things that you may not want to hear,
Yep.
you may not agree with,
Right.
but honesty is an 11 for you.
Yes.
So you're giving me permission to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Is that right, Kent?
That's right.
So I start
That's a
that
good
relationship
point. That's
that way.
good. Do you do that with most of your clients?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Because I know there are times I'm going to tell you things
Uncle Sally's been
you're not
whispering
happy
in their
to
ears.
hear. Yeah. So that's really key because it's not going to do you any good to overprice your house. That's not going to get appraised.
Yes.
And then all you're doing are the homes that are appropriately priced in that price range, you're helping them sell.
Yes. Yes.
Because the buyer walks into your house and immediately this house is overpriced.
Right.
And the buyer who's going to buy your house won't even see your house.
Yeah.
Because they're looking at homes appropriately
Right,
priced.
within that range, and you're above that range.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing, I talk about a lot, when do you think the best time is to sell your house? Right when you come on the market? A week later, a month later? When would you think?
I think up front.
It is right when your house comes on the market.
Yeah.
That is the best time to sell your
What,
house.
in the first 48 hours or so, I would guess.
Right when it hits the market.
Yeah.
So if you miss that,
Yes.
if you overprice it and you miss, because once it comes on the market, especially in this market where our inventory is low,
Yeah.
I told you less than 2 months inventory, everybody comes down to look at your house.
Yeah.
And if you're overpriced, they're out.
Yeah.
Now, you may reduce your price a month later, but you've missed.
you're an old story at that point.
Yeah, you've missed that huge surge.
Yeah.
So I caution you sellers, and I'm seeing it.
How many today on many of the homes, and I would guess that most of the homes in this area are selling between 200 to 350, 400,000. Is that kind of the mid-range for a lot of homes?
Well, our average, in fact, I have the latest report here. Our average is around 285.
Okay.
285, 189 right now.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good average for Spokane.
Yeah.
But again, we're a bunch of micro markets.
Buy you a garage in Seattle,
Right,
maybe,
right,
or an
right.
outhouse, but yeah.
But in this market, and we'll kind of get into it a little bit, but in this market,
Yeah.
with the dynamics that you have to be aware of, buyers, you're going to be competing with other buyers.
Yes.
So the second half of the show, we'll talk about buyers and
Okay.
how they can be successful in getting selected by that seller.
Right. What question I have is, today real estate is so complicated because of state mandates and the license and everything else that goes with that. And it really comes down to, it's a contract, a written contract.
Absolutely,
okay?
a contract.
And so let's maybe start with the sellers. What are some of the things that I as a seller ought to be asking you as my agent,
Yes.
as my realtor,
Yes.
and be aware of, so that I'm at least clarifying some things. I mean, it all going in, but I need to know so that I don't get those surprises. And so what are some of the things that I should be asking you about this contract, which I'm going to guess is no longer on one sheet of paper?
Yeah, it hasn't been on one sheet of paper.
They sell it by reams, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So hit some of the highlights. What are some of the things that
You bet. I'm gonna touch on kind of the topics,
Yes.
and then we're gonna roll into break.
Okay.
But Kent, I'm gonna talk about things like inspection, things like financing. Can the buyer buy it? What stays with the house? What can I take with me?
Okay.
What do I have to disclose? Does my buyer have to sell a house to buy mine, which we're seeing a lot of right now?
Yeah.
So those are the things we're gonna talk about right when we come back. So Real Estate Talks with Ken Sachs. We're gonna roll into our break now. We'll see you in just a minute.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and the description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
Welcome to a new kind of talk show, Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversations that include respect for opinions, facts, and diversity.
Spokane Talks, Saturdays at 8 a.m. on Fox 28.
Welcome back. Again, I am Ken Sachs. You are watching Real Estate Talks. My guest, Kent Adams. And we're talking about, of course, real estate. But Kent asked a great question rolling into the break, and that was, hey, as a seller, what do I need to know about the contract? What's important to me? So I want to get into that, Kent. The first thing, me as your listing agent, I always want to know, can this offer, what's the likelihood of this buyer being able to complete this contract and buy my house or buy your house?
Right.
Because, Kent, the last thing I want to do is take your house off the market.
Right.
Now nobody's looking at it.
Right.
While we figure out whether or not this person can buy the house.
Yeah.
So as a seller, it's really key to understand who am I aligning with
Are
as
they
a
approved
buyer?
for a mortgage?
Can they get a loan?
Yeah.
We have a lot of buyers say, well, I'm a cash buyer.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Yeah. So I always tell agents,
how do you know they're a
realtors,
cash
buyer?
buyer?
Show me the money.
Yeah.
So somebody says they're a cash buyer.
Is
seller.
that why you keep going to Hawaii so often?
Now, that's another show. It's another show. But when a buyer, and a lot of buyers think that if I'm getting a loan from my equity line, or I'm getting a loan from dad, or I have 401k money, they think that's cash.
Yes.
And it may be cash in their minds, but it's not cash as far as our contract is concerned.
Okay, interesting.
So sellers and listing agents, we want to identify where's the money coming from and what do we need to know.
Right.
So
isn't that really the buyer's realtor that should have asked those questions?
Absolutely.
And come to you.
Absolutely.
And be able to answer those?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So where's the money coming from?
Right.
Inspection. So this is always an interesting one because most contracts, most offers come with what's called an inspection contingency, which is great. I mean, I recommend those wholeheartedly all the time. But with an inspection contingency here in Washington, it is essentially a free look for the buyers.
Yes, I wondered about that.
Yes, meaning, let's say we go under contract today, Kent, and we have an inspection contingency.
It doesn't take much to say, I want out.
Well, the default time period is 10 days on that inspection contingency.
Okay.
So what that means, seller, is within those 10 days, one of the options the buyer has is to disapprove the inspection and terminate the contract. They don't even have to do an inspection. So, see, and I guess sellers...
So you're really pulling it off the market for 10 days.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so you get sellers who say, hey, honey, let's pack. We sold our house.
What can I do as a seller to help prevent that?
Well, let's look at how much time should we give the buyer to conduct that inspection.
Okay.
So, like I said, the default is 10 days. But in this market, and what I may get into when we talk about buyers...
How do you get an inspector out that fast?
Well, That's another challenge.
Yeah.
I have actually set up inspections when I've submitted an offer.
Okay.
And I'll tell the list agent, and by the way, we have an inspection scheduled for tomorrow at 3.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Smart.
But the key for a seller, it's not a done deal.
Yeah.
It's a free look.
Yeah.
Don't start packing.
Right.
Don't say it's a done deal.
Yeah.
It's not. So be aware of that.
That's interesting.
It is. Included items. Had one of these issues today with somebody I was helping. What stays with the house?
Yes.
And what can I take?
Right.
And it's clear in the contract if you're working with realtors who understand the contract.
Right.
Plus, there's a paragraph C, titled Included Items. This is what stays with the house.
Okay.
So, Kent, if I am meeting with you today to sell your house,
Right.
I'm going to go over that paragraph with
Right.
you so you can tell me, well, wait a second. I don't want to leave those window coverings that
Right.
match the
My grandmother
comforter.
made them or whatever.
That's exactly right.
Right.
So
Right.
we have to have that conversation and deal with it
Okay.
because we don't want to sell that stuff.
Right.
So understand what stays with the house, what doesn't stay with the house.
Solves a lot of problems later
Oh
on.
my gosh, it's just about being on the same page.
Yeah.
A buyer can't ask for a refrigerator because that is one of the check boxes that we have in paragraph 5. You can't check that box if there's no refrigerator on the property.
Oh, okay.
So that we see a lot of fights over that.
Yeah,
It
okay.
has to be in or on the property for
Okay.
the buyer to ask for it.
Okay.
So included items. What
Wow.
stays with the house? What am I taking? Does the buyer, and I mentioned this before break, a lot of our buyers have to sell a house first
Yes.
to buy your house.
Right.
And there's two different ways to go about that, two different contingencies. One is I have to sell my house and my house isn't sold yet.
Yeah.
One is I have to sell my house and we're under contract on it. We're just waiting for it to close.
Okay.
So
That would seem better.
this one is definitely better.
Yeah.
It's more attractive
That's
and it's a
pure
stronger offer.
speculation.
This is pure speculation. But you need to understand and you need to talk with your realtor professional on this on the speculation one.
Right. What's the chance? Is it priced right? Is it reasonable to be sold?
And with this one, I can bump this buyer if I go under contract with another buyer.
Ah, okay.
And if I try to bump this buyer, but they don't want to be bumped, they can waive this contingency
Okay,
and
right.
agree to close in 30 days.
Okay.
The risk there is,
Yeah.
well, what if I don't close in 30 days? What have I lost?
Their down payment.
It would be
There's
their earnest money.
earnest money, yeah.
Which, if the earnest money is a minimal amount,
Yes.
seller, you need to understand the position you could be in, and that would be all you're entitled
In
to.
the meantime, you've avoided all these potential sales. What would be for a standard home in Spokane? What do you look at these days for an earnest money? 5,000?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So here's how I look
Because
at
I
it.
haven't bought or sold a house for 36 years.
Right.
So I'm going to guess it's a little more than what I did 36 years ago.
How I look at earnest money, and not everybody looks at it the same, but how I look at earnest money is what's the exposure to the seller.
Okay.
You know, if I have a cash buyer who we're
Yeah.
going to close in 10 days, no inspection,
Right.
and here's evidence of funds, not a lot of exposure.
No.
But if I have a buyer who has to sell a house and, you know, we could be 60 days or
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
that is a lot of exposure. I would want to see more earnest money there
Okay.
than with my cash
Okay, good
buyers.
point, good point.
So earnest money is negotiable.
Okay.
And how I define earnest money is liquidated damages in the event of a buyer default.
Okay.
Assuming that remedies for a default is forfeiture of earnest money.
Right.
Which normally it is.
Right.
So great question. Not understood by many.
Yeah.
But that is earnest money.
Yeah.
So buyers, let's shift gears
Okay.
on buyers. What do buyers need to know? Buyers, I already talked to you about cash.
Right.
You tell me you're a cash buyer, that just means I'm going to be asking questions.
Okay.
Where's that money coming from?
Right.
Because most of the time it's really not cash and it's something we have to disclose to the seller.
Or it's from the estate and I'm going to get this inheritance. Well, when are you going to get the
Which
inheritance?
would be contingent
In
funds.
January of 2021.
Right. So we have to ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
Inspection periods, we already touched on that.
Yeah.
But buyers, here we are, less than 2 months inventory. You want to get picked, right?
Yes.
You have 8 buyers wanting to buy one house.
Right.
And you're all there waving your hand, pick me, pick me, pick me. one way to stand out would be talk about maybe shortening that inspection time period.
Okay. So you're not putting the seller on the
That's right.
on the
That's right.
table there.
Nothing says you have to use the default to 10 days.
Yeah, okay.
What about 5 days?
Okay.
Right? So talk
And you
with
can get an inspector out in 5 days?
You can.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So talk to your realtor
Know
about
that, know that up front.
That's right.
Yeah.
Another thing where I see people get hurt is, the contract references possession.
Yeah.
So typically possession is the day of closing by
Right.
9 p.m.
Right.
Well, what if my house is rented? What if I'm going to sell your house and it's a rental property
Right.
and that tenant has 10 months left on their lease?
Yeah.
The key for a buyer is to understand that possession and occupancy are two different
Yeah.
things.
And you better know that up front. What is against that property, right?
That's right. And again, this
So
is
whose responsibility is that? Is that the seller's realtor to be sure that that's known by everybody, that yes, you can buy this, but you can't possess it?
Well, it would be material to disclose that there's a lease on my property,
okay.
and somebody's in a 1-year lease or 10 months left or whatever.
Right.
But then it's for the buyer broker, the buyer's realtor, to understand that possession. The buyer may end up with possession, so you have possession of that property and all the benefits of it.
But you can't move in.
You don't have a right to occupy.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you're going to have to draft language controlling the occupancy.
Right.
But a lot of people confuse possession and occupancy.
yeah.
So you need to understand that.
Okay, good point.
Yes. We talked about earnest money, but we didn't talk about how to get that back.
Yeah.
And so how we get earnest money back, both parties, buyer and seller, need to agree who gets it and how much.
Okay.
So that's where we end up in situations because sellers are upset. The buyer terminated the contract. They disapproved the inspection. Maybe they didn't even do an inspection, which they don't have to do. And now they terminate the contract. They want their money back.
Yeah.
And they're entitled to it. But the party holding the money,
Yeah.
they want both people to sign off so they don't get sued.
Right.
So they're going to say, well, we need the seller signature. And now here's where you have that human emotional element where the seller says,
Well, they weren't nice. They backed out.
exactly,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sign this.
Oh, gee.
So it is
I'm going to guess you've seen a few of those in your lifetime.
just a few. Yes, it happens frequently.
Yeah.
And this is where your realtor professional needs to explain to you, buyer, here's how we get the money back. And the language in the contract can set us up for failure because there's language that says if this happens, buyer gets their money back. But that may not be accurate because if seller doesn't sign off on it, the buyer may not get it back. So the realtor really has to understand the dynamics around earnest money and how you get it back, and they need to educate their client.
You know what? I'm just sitting here taking this all in, and clear to me that there's an obvious need and a reason to have a professional in your corner, which would be a licensed realtor.
Yes,
You
with
know,
experience.
And in some cases, with more experience than some of the real estate attorneys who don't.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, so experience, support.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to have the
That they can call
support.
someone and get the inspector out there the next
Right.
day. That they can, yeah.
Or they have a designated broker at their office because they all have to work under a designated broker.
Okay.
So a designated
Hey,
broker.
that's what you do.
That's what I do.
Right.
And so a designated broker that can be there to help, assist, coach,
right.
And advise.
Right.
Because there's so many dynamics, and we've just been talking for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So, so buyers, let's see, and I'm getting the
I need to go take a nap.
right.
But this is what's so helpful, and that's why I like this series. You may not be, as a viewer, ready to sell or buy, but you will someday.
That's right.
Whether it's next month or to guide your kids next year or whatever it may be, or as you get my age, you start looking at where do you downsize,
Sure.
and those kinds of things. So we got a lot of baby boomers out there. I'm first year, okay? And so that's why you really need to turn to a licensed realtor. It
Absolutely.
really everyone thinks they can sell it on their own because it's a seller's market and all that, but you really need somebody to walk you through all this and know how to get it done.
That's right. And, a question that I always ask when somebody comes to me and says, hey, Ken, I'm moving to USA town,
Right.
I will, first I'll kind of sniff around online. But then when I call an agent from another market,
Yeah.
I really ask one question: how's the market?
Yeah.
And it's amazing asking that question, the answers you'll get.
Really?
You'll get everything from, oh, it's great,
Yeah.
to breaking down buyer's market, seller's market, months
Yeah.
of inventory. Here's the business that I've been doing lately. Here are
Right.
the issues we've been having in the market.
Right, right.
You are quickly separating yourself from your
Yes,
competitors.
yes.
So key question, buyers and sellers, ask your realtor that. Ask them about their business. How long have they been in business? What are some of the challenges? Tell me about the market. Oh, it's a seller's market. What does that mean?
Right.
Ask these questions. Average sales price, months of inventory. You have to ask those questions. That will separate those that are, hey, let's give this a try.
Yeah.
To those that this is what I do.
And when the market went up, we saw all kinds of people jump into part-time real estate, right?
We see it every time.
Yeah.
Every time that swing comes.
Yeah.
So I am getting the
Being
buzz from
told
the
to
producer.
Shut Kent up over there.
Yes. So, folks, that was a lot of information in a little bit of time.
It was.
So, fortunately, you can come back and listen to this as often as you want.
Yeah.
Kent, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for
We
inviting
don't do
me.
shows that often, but I always
Yeah.
enjoy it when we do it.
Yeah.
And folks, Ken Sachs, I am co-owner of SpokaneHouseHunter.com. Conveniently, our name is also our web address, so feel free to go there. Check out all of the inventory in Spokane, listed by all companies. Reach out anytime I can assist you. And Real Estate Talks, down with another show. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching. Real Estate Talk is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Real Estate Talk is sponsored by SpokaneHouseHunter.com. Ask Ken a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Spokane Talks